Fredric Jameson, one contemporary Marxist critic, argues that all literature must be read as a symbolic meditation of the destiny of community. And it's from this thinking that Marxist critical theory was born. But what does that really mean?
I think it means that as humans, we've always been intrinsically fascinated by society and the way that it's ordered and organized. And for this reason, it's really important and interesting to view different works of literature and also real-life societies through multifaceted lenses.
And when using Marxist critical theory to analyze a given work, some questions to ask yourself are, what can be identified as commodity in the work, and what is the ideology of the social classes? What values does that ideology reinforce? And what social classes do all the characters represent? And how do these classes interact or conflict?
Marxist criticism is based upon the foundation that society is made up of various rankings. The interactions between these different classes are what create social implications.
Marxist analysis lies in the weighing of relations between social being and social consciousness. Marxist analysis is all about viewing how one society, class, social conditions affect the way that the members of the society view their own society. And Marxist analysis is based on the interactions of the different social classes in the given society, and in most cases, this class system can be divided into two sects, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat classes. The bourgeoisie class is made up of the higher members of the society, the characters that hold power and control in the society. And on the other hand, the proletariat class is the lower class, the working class that does not have control in the society, and they are trying to work their way up to the bourgeoisie because they're seen as inferior to the bourgeoisie class. And the reason that only certain characters are members of the bourgeoisie class is because they hold the currency of the society. And currency is defined as the intangible or tangible goods that are seen as valuable in the society. Identifying the currency of a given work is one of the key elements of analyzing something with a Marxist lens. Commodification describes the attitude of placing value on certain items based on the currency of the society, in which case these items would be valued only for the ability to impress others in that society and not for their utility. And lastly, the term ideology describes the central rule that separates the esteemed from the negligible. In a Marxist interpretation, it refers to the mindset that separates the bourgeoisie from the proletariat.
In The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author creates a partitioned society where the bourgeoisie creates lots of struggle between themselves and the proletariats. And this is due to the fact that the bourgeoisie has currency. And this currency in The Great Gatsby is respect. And the bourgeoisie is respected due to the fact that their money is inherited rather than self-made. And the characters part of this class is Daisy and her husband Tom. And the proletariat in The Great Gatsby is Gatsby himself. Gatsby wishes to be part of the bourgeoisie, and you can see this in his great desire to impress Daisy and to become part of their society. So class division is really illustrated in this quote that we found. It really shows how the bourgeoisie can really use their power over the proletariats. Describing Tom and Daisy. They were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and creatures, and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together, and let other people clean up their mess they had made. This quote really illustrates just how careless Tom and Daisy were. The fact that they had the privilege of being part of the bourgeoisie gave them less responsibility that perhaps Gatsby did have.
We all know that Gatsby has a lot of money and he's very extravagant and rich, but what he doesn't have is the prestige and honor and respect that the members of the old money, or in this case the bourgeoisie class, have. Since Gatsby's a member of the proletariat class and his money is self-made, he doesn't quite have what he desires ultimately, that respect and that honor. And so Gatsby does everything he can to actively pursue his goal of advancing up the social ladder and gaining that respect that the bourgeoisie class has. So when Gatsby is giving Nick and Daisy a tour of his elaborate mansion, Nick notices that I think he revalued everything in his house according to the measure of response it drew from her well-loved eyes. As you can see in the quote that we just described, Gatsby uses his materialistic objects and his lavish displays of wealth to attract the attention of members of the bourgeoisie class. So alienation results from materialism and the pursuit of achieving higher status and importance in society. And so Gatsby really illustrates this by his lavish displays of wealth and by commodifying attention and affections from members of the bourgeoisie class.
The last term to cover is ideology. And what further separates the class is, in The Great Gatsby, is the difference in ideology. So the ideology of the bourgeoisie is that you need to come to your money in a respectable manner, and this would be through inheritance. So, at one instance, Tom calls Gatsby Mr. Nobody from nowhere. And this is seen as questionable since Gatsby is so popular for his extravagant parties and his lavishness. However, the bourgeoisie rejects him since he does not have that key factor, which is a family name. You need to have come to your money through inheritance. There's no other way to get into the bourgeoisie. But the proletariat still wish and desire to get into the bourgeoisie. And this is where the ideologies conflict, since the bourgeoisie, you need to come through your money through inheritance, but the proletariats are unable to do that. So their ideology is to just gain as much currency as they possibly can, since they have no other way of gaining success.
Now that we've analyzed the work of literary merit, let's jump into something a little bit more modern. Season 20 of ABC's The Bachelor, intense competition between the contestants for the ultimate prize of The Bachelor's final rose, shows the great lengths that the proletariat class will go to in order to gain the currency and social prestige of the society they are in. In this society of The Bachelor, Ben Higgins, the Bachelor himself, is the ultimate member of the bourgeoisie class because he holds all the currency in the society, and the female contestants, the proletariat class members, all are vying for his attention and affection. An example of this can be seen in the second episode of The Bachelor, where the female contestants go on a group date and they all compete in various trials to see who will win one-on-one time with The Bachelor. So in this group date, they go into a high school and they compete in a science experiment, bobbing for apples, a geography quiz, a basketball shootout, and a track and field hurdle race. So they go through somewhat ridiculous trials, all to gain one-on-one time with The Bachelor and prove themselves worthy to him. Because in the end, that is what they are all trying to do. They are all trying to work their way up to the bourgeoisie class by proving themselves worthy to Ben. Since all the women wish to gain safety and validation from Ben Higgins' Bachelor, the roses on the show become coveted and therefore can be defined as the currency of the society. In each episode, at the end of the episode, there is something called a rose ceremony, in which the Bachelor hands out roses to the contestants that he wishes to stay on for the next week of the season. And therefore, these roses represent security for the women so that they can stay on the show for another week. And therefore, it's the currency of the society. Ben Higgins holds all of this currency, and it's free to give out to whoever he wants to give it out to. And this really furthers the competition between the proletariat class members. So however hard the women may try, it is Ben himself that is the ultimate assessor of their fates on the show. The roses set him up as the bourgeoisie class and the women as the proletariat class. And moreover, the rose ceremonies conducted at the end of each episode are how the Bachelor exercises his power over the women. And it's a physical manifestation of hegemony in this society. Hegemony is defined as how the bourgeoisie affects their power over the proletariat class. So this is a clear depiction of the Bachelor as the ruling class and the contestants as the mere proletariat class, because they're always anticipating his approval and always desiring to prove themselves worthy to him, longing to gain the currency of the society in order to eventually reach the goal of becoming his wife and winning the competition of The Bachelor.
Since the ideology of the ruling class, or the bourgeoisie class, controls the society and kind of the way in which society is ordered and works, Ben essentially holds the control in this situation. So according to Marxist theory, the class which has the means of material production at its disposal is the class that kind of governs the whole society. And they also govern the mental production of the society, so their ideology rules. In this case, Ben holds the power. So if Ben thinks a certain girl is attractive or desirable, it doesn't matter what the girl thinks or what the other girls are feeling towards him. His ideology rules. So he's the one that gets to make all the decisions, all the final cuts. It doesn't matter if the girls, if he reciprocates feelings with certain girls that don't reciprocate it back with him, or vice versa, that doesn't really matter because Ben is the one that's in control. All the girls are fighting essentially for the same prize of Ben's love. And it doesn't really matter how they're internalizing their feelings. All that matters is what Ben sees, because he's the one that gets to hand out the roses at the end of the day. This can be shown in the episode where the girls are taken to Las Vegas with Ben, and in one of their group date activities they have to basically put on a show in a big comedy club in front of thousands of people, in front of a live studio audience, and also in front of Ben. And so one of the contestants, Olivia, she emerges from a large cake in a showgirl outfit, and she essentially makes a fool of herself in front of so many people and in front of Ben. And shortly after this happens, she has a very serious panic attack, and she gets really emotional, and her state of emotional turmoil is very heightened by the situation. And the reason that her emotional response was so severe is because she knows that she has damaged her chances with Ben. And it doesn't matter how strongly she's feeling for him. She knows that she embarrassed herself in front of Ben, and Ben's the one that gets to make the decision. So she's worried about her security as a contestant on this show, and that can be seen by her emotional response to an embarrassing endeavor that she was forced to compete in order to win the prize of Ben's love. So we did all this research looking at different Marxist tenets in different works of literature and also in different works of pop culture. But what does it really mean? Like, how can this affect our lives today? And so what we have kind of come to the conclusion of is that our society, everything that our society puts out as media and as literature and as art is a reflection of what's important to us and what we value. And so that's really evident in what you can see like in the works of literature that we studied and also in the Bachelor TV show.
One other important thing to note is what counts as commodity in any society. So what do you commodify in your life? What does the society as a whole commodify? We also learned that social class rankings still exist very much today, and we understand the general mentality of these groups of people in a society and what separates them and what creates conflict in these classes.
So now that we know what creates this conflict and this tension between the classes, when we approach situations in everyday life, we can kind of know where people's ideologies are coming from and what are the distinguishing factors.
And because of this project, we definitely view literature and media very differently. We don't read books the same or watch TV shows the same way. We question the social mobility of the society, of the people in the society, and the currency in the society as well. And it allows us to truly understand the deeper meaning behind the class conflict and the societal structure.